for Let's Get Ready? Hi. I get one person like that's right. That's how this goes. I joke, you laugh. This is going to be a very smooth night. Very smooth night. Okay. So I have my notes here, what I'm going to say. I'm very prepared. All right. This will be a rough crowd. Okay. So first and foremost, thank you to everyone who helped put this together, the Federal Reserve Bank of Boston, my amazing staff and board members, my committee members. David Walensky is going to stand up for me. Selassie is going to stand up for me, please. Thank you very much. Those are my bosses. Elliot is not here tonight.
That's what I needed.
And you do it very well, sir. Okay. So thank you, thank you, thank you. For those of you who don't know, Let's Get Ready provides free SAT prep and college access and now success services to about 3,000 students each year. We, again, do it for free. So we go into high-need communities with our college students to provide what we call a near-peer model. We do tons of SAT prep, but also we start the conversation that many of our students do not receive at home, as about 76% of our students are first generation in their families to go to college. So we want to make sure that they not only look great via the SAT, but also know how to interview well, know the difference between a the common application essay, and also the SAT essay. Try saying that 3 times. We want to make sure they know what that looks like. The other thing is we want them to make some really solid decisions, meaning does it really make sense to go to college X when the completion rate of college X is maybe 20% versus college B where the completion rate is maybe 45 to 56%, right? We're helping them to make those educated decisions. In addition, is UMass-Boston in the room? Is Adam here yet? No? Fabulous. Just want to give him a shout out. He's not even here. What? I'll talk about it later. So we work with people like UMass-Boston to make sure that our students receive the financial aid information that they need. In addition, they train us to have those conversations. So myself and all of our program staff knows how to lead a conversation with the parent and also with the student in regards to let's make some smart decisions about loans and grants and all of that good stuff. And again, we do this for the low price of free. We like that, don't we? Awesome. So with that said, we're very interested in the discussion topic tonight. That's why this is our second annual College Access and Success Briefing. Our esteemed panelists, to my right here, we have Liliana, Mickle, the Director of Success Boston at UMass-Boston. My understanding. Yes. The esteemed, Joseph Moore, President Joseph Moore, I'm about to call him Joe. Not Trent. Joseph Moore from Lesley University. And Chris Avery. Chris, I'm after me the title for this. Here we go. Roy E. Larson, Professor of Public Policy at Harvard University, CYN. The discussion tonight will be moderated by Radday, and our she is a Senior Manager of Research, Social Impact Research at Root Cause. So what's going to happen is they're going to have a very lively discussion about this very interesting topic, and then after that we're going to open the floor up to Q&A. Yes? Fabulous. Do we have this chair yet?
Yes, it's coming.
Okay. You want to stand and speak for now, or you want to move them closer?
I'll start over here.
Fabulous.
As we go.
Fabulous. This is me sitting down there. Thank you.
Do I need the mic, or can everyone hear me? I'm not quite as loud.
Use the mic.
Use the mic. Use the mic? Okay.
Okay. Good evening. Thank you, Nakia, and thank you all of you for being here tonight. I'm so excited to be here and have the opportunity to moderate this amazing panel that Let's Get Ready has assembled. So before we get started, I just want to make one small confession, which is I am a first-time moderator. I don't know that Nakia knew that when she asked me, so bear with me, but I'm sure this panel will be great. So the title of tonight's panel is The Challenges of College Access and College Success. These are hugely important topics for our city and our nation, and I think everyone in this room is well aware of that. So I'll start with the good news. In the last 10 years, enrollment in degree-granting universities has increased by 37%. That's pretty great. It shows that we're making some progress and we're doing good work. But I think you all know that we can't be satisfied with that. There are many, many more young people who need our help to get into college, and more importantly, well, no, maybe not more importantly, but maybe, we'll find out what the panel thinks, get through college. Because once they get there, the statistics turn pretty grim. Right now, 60% of students who enroll full-time in college are not graduating within 6 years. Kids arrive at college with excitement and trepidation, just as I'm sure all of you did, and I did. But what about those kids who don't have that family or a person who went before them to fall back on? How can we support them better to make sure that they do get through? You're all part of this pipeline, helping kids get into and through college. And along the way, you face numerous challenges. So, we're very fortunate tonight to have these three great experts who we can have a conversation with, ask some questions, and learn a little bit from their experience. So Nakia already introduced them. So can everyone just in the audience raise your hand quickly? Just put your hand. Everyone, just everyone, yeah. Great. Okay, thank you. So now you know how to get our attention. We want this to be a really interactive and engaging conversation. So I'll start off with a few questions, and then we're gonna open the floor to you. So Nakia gave a quick introduction to our three panelists, and just to start off, I'm going to ask them each to just 1 minute briefly tell us a little bit about who they are and what they do.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Liliana Mickle. I am Special Assistant to the Vice Provost at UMass-Boston, where I was an undergraduate student. I graduated from Boston Public Schools. I immigrated to the United States. English was my second language, and now my primary language. I was a teen mom, so I was one of those students that your agency may have served. I have a degree in computer science from UMass-Boston. I have a master's in education, and I'm finishing up a doctorate at UMass. Pray that they accept my qualifying papers. I was the director of admissions at UMass, and I've worked at the university for 30 years, primarily in the undergraduate admissions office, where I felt a job of an admissions office was not done if the students cannot walk out of the institution with a degree. So for me, the most important thing coming is yes, the access, the getting in. We have to get them to the doors. That is something that is showing without the help of nonprofits. Enough students are not showing up to the colleges. Some students, they decide that they're going to be admissions themselves and that they are going to determine the qualifications and decide for us that they don't meet the requirements and not even complete the application. So even another frightening statistic for those students that are low income and first in their family to go to college, their graduation rates are 11%. So that's even worse for somebody who's doubly disadvantaged. They're not having the success that they need to have. So it's a pleasure to be here. Nakia and the staff, thank you so much for inviting me. I appreciate the opportunity to come and have a discussion with you.
Hi, I'm Joe Moore. I'm finishing up my 6th year at Lesley University in Cambridge as the president there. A number of my colleagues are here, also participate in this discussion, I hope, with me. So what do you need to know about me? Neither of my parents went to college, so I guess I look back now and I guess I'd say, oh, I was a first-generation college student. I didn't know that back then. Most of my career has been in public higher ed in Vermont, Pennsylvania and New York. Previous to this, I was the president of a really interesting institution called Empire State College in the SUNY system. Serves 18,000 adult learners in different sites throughout the state of New York, from lower Manhattan, Bed-Stuy, all the way out to Buffalo. Done a lot of work with community colleges, and really interesting, sort of making a shift from 30 years in public higher ed, 30, more than that, to the 6 years at Lesley, which I consider, which is a private nonprofit, but very much with a public mission in some way. So it's an interesting place to be. So in essence, I've spent 35 to 40 years in higher ed, fending off my, trying to make sure that my personal experience as a college student doesn't influence how I analyze higher ed now.
So I'm Chris Avery. I'm a professor at Harvard at the Kennedy School, where I teach public policy. I'm actually an economist by training, but I've gotten very involved in studying college admissions, and that has been the focus of my research for more than a decade. And I think that what's drawn me to college admissions and studying access as a research issue is the presumption that I always had that education was the one place, was the great equalizer, was the engine of social mobility in society. And I became very discouraged and upset when I learned the more that you study education, the more you realize college admissions is getting in the way. And as Liliana described, there are lots of talented students from low-income backgrounds, often first-generation students, graduating from high school who've worked really hard to prepare themselves, and for one reason or another are let down by the college admissions process and the hurdles that are required to get them to appropriate colleges where they can thrive. Let's Get Ready obviously is addressing a couple of those in major ways. Both the SAT preparation is really important, and all the additional work, as Nakia has described, to help with the college application process and financial aid process, hugely important.
Okay, great. Thank you, everyone. So my first question is a bit of an easy one, I hope. To you and Liliana and Chris, you touched on this a bit, but can you just explain to us what do we mean by the terms access and success? And why are these particularly important for underrepresented students?
Well, I think you'd have different definitions for different people, but the access really just has to mean not just is it possible, but do we see the appropriate progress for the students, as I said, who are qualified? And are they going, and then success is not only are they getting to appropriate colleges, but are they succeeding once they arrive? And you can see that either one is a hurdle from the statistics that Anne described and the statistics that Liliana described. In a perfect world, organizations like Let's Get Ready wouldn't be necessary, because the process would, the high schools would be training students, and students would be transitioning in a smooth way to colleges and succeeding in a smooth way in colleges. But that's not the, pragmatically, that's not the world we live in. We live in a world where low-income students are underserved at every step of the way. And we'll just talk about college admissions. The applications process is hard. The SAT can be a big barrier. Fee waivers are hard to come by. And students end up having to pay for things they shouldn't have to pay for. And once they get to college, there may not be the appropriate level of support.
In relationship to success, it's also about being able to take advantage of what the institution has to offer that student. So being there and not being able to get involved truly in the life of that college may diminish that student's opportunity later on. So for me, success is also including the ability to travel and go overseas if that's something that the student wants to do, but some of our students don't have some of those kinds of opportunities. The ability to engage in the classroom, the ability to be on campus and participate in the extracurricular activities. But we have students where a financial aid process does not necessarily give them enough money to be able to handle that part of their life where they can't, they have to work the number of hours that they work. So we have a system that says, okay, we will get you in, but we can't get you out. And we're struggling to get you out. And there are great colleges and great programs doing a lot to help students with success, but that is not enough. We have a generation of students who are coming that's going to have a higher need. The students right now in the pipeline that you are not seeing, elementary, first grade, they are poorer, they are going to have more needs than the students that we're currently serving in higher ed. And how are we going to deal with those demands if we're not preparing ourselves to be able to handle that? If financial aid is not keeping in place the policies that it has put, and that was to really support the success of students, low-income students, and that's not the case today.
So, access and success. Let me try and ground it and stimulate your questions or comments through the following. Currently, a student who is in a family in the upper quintile of income, the odds of that person earning a college degree are just slightly over 80%. A student from the lower quintile family income, the odds, the statistics of that person getting a college degree are 8%. It's a factor of 10. That has increased in the last 25 years dramatically. It used to be a factor of 4, now it's a factor of 10. So when we talk about access problems, this is not in any way something that this crowd here doesn't know. I looked over the RSVP list, okay? So we're looking at people who work a lot with these kids through the nonprofits. Some of you work at other higher ed institutions working with this population. If you think that this is solely a college and university problem, I would challenge you on that. I think the colleges and universities are set up, admissions offices are set up to reflect that distribution. And as a result, we have disproportionately high-income students that go to the wealthiest institutions. We have disproportionately low-income students that go to the institutions that spend lower dollars per FTE. The enrollment at community colleges in this country outpaces every other sector in higher ed, and we don't know what to do about our community colleges after being one of the great innovations in American higher ed in the late 50s and early 60s, and we're still looking on how are we going to increase capacity if we want more people getting to college. And I'm not sure we want to, because no one is talking about new forms of higher ed, and MOOCs are not the answer for the population that we're talking about. So I'll just throw that stuff out there, and hopefully that stimulates some of your thoughts a little bit.
Great, thank you. So sticking on the success side, according to the latest research, persistence in college has a lot to do with personal attributes and characteristics like grit, self-efficacy, resilience. This, in fact, was a very hot topic. I don't know if any of you were at the NPEA conference a few weeks ago in Boston, but it was a topic discussed in almost every room I walked into, which was pretty exciting. And I think it's pretty clear from these conversations that these attributes matter. What's not entirely clear is how we develop these attributes among students to make sure that they can persist and get through college. So what do you think that we can do to help develop these attributes in students, maybe before they even get to college, to help them succeed once they get there?
Some of the things that we're currently doing with the Boston Public Schools is through Success Boston. And that is working in partnership with nonprofits like many of the nonprofits in the room through the Getting Ready. Getting Ready stage is really the Boston Public Schools. What can they do to make sure that the students are prepared for the academic rigor that they're going to get in the college classrooms here in Boston and any other states that the students happen to get into? Getting them in college access programs that are really working with them to talk about the types of institutions that they're interested in, the kinds of careers that they want to get into, getting to know the students, building a relationship, talking about some of these non-academic issues that students are facing, whether it's a lot of family responsibilities, having to take care of a grandmother, having to take care of your siblings, having to work, having to be the translator for the family. Those are things that many of you know the students more intimately and know some of those things. But it's talking through those different issues, having them understand that they can do it, having them apply to colleges that will give them the opportunities that they need in order to succeed. So for us, we're really working on those 3 levels. We are working with the nonprofits. We're working in partnership with the Boston Public Schools. What we're learning from the work that the nonprofits are doing, we're trying to take back to the Boston Public Schools to say, okay, we've experienced a number of your students who are coming that are having a hard time getting out of remedial courses. What do we do now to talk about the policy changes that need to happen at the Boston Public Schools to be able to increase that? In order for us to increase career options, you are exposing them to the types of careers in different fields that are available. I was a computer science major. I was the only girl in my classes. I was the only student of color sometimes sitting in that classroom. And I have young ladies who are extremely talented that aren't thinking about math or engineering or computer science or robotics. I want them to think about those kinds of fields. So how can you instill those things? You can expose them. You can bring people in that look like them to say these fields and options are available to you. That is some of the things that we can do now. We can build stronger relationships and try to match them with institutions that will help them to meet their goals. Many students will have the option or the desire, aspiration about going to a 4-year school, and they will start at a 2. Your chances when you do that of finishing and getting a 4-year degree is now been diminished. So if you have somebody who is talented and ready to apply to a 4-year institution and can get in, have them do that. Only a few of those students actually make it through that process where they will use that 2-year as a launching pad to the 4-year.
One of the, I'll pick up a little bit on what Liliana said. One of the most eye-opening things that for me on this topic was a book that was written by Richard Blight, who's a professor at the Harvard Education School, and it was about Harvard students. But I do think that in this instance, the phenomenon will translate to many other places. In fact, the fact that this is true for Harvard students is kind of compelling itself. He interviewed Harvard students for many, many years to try to find out what was making some of them successful and ask questions about a variety of elements of campus life. One of the striking things he found was that students who came from like fancy preparatory boarding schools came to Harvard and said, this is a great place, I get to meet the professors, there's all these fabulous opportunities, it's like being at a tiny liberal arts college. Students who were for whom was at the other end of the spectrum, for whom was a little bit more unusual. Their schools weren't really feeder schools for Harvard, or even necessarily schools out of state, and sometimes students from schools where very few of their classmates went to 4-year colleges at all. Those students tended to find Harvard a cold, forbidding place. They said, I'm only in large classes, I don't really get any help, nobody wants to talk to me. And they might have graduated, but they graduated without the feeling that they had gotten the most out of the experience, or that there were many opportunities at all. And I think that what I take from this is, I'm a big believer in the importance of social networks. And everybody has social networks. But the students, when you're talking about the low-income students, for whom 8% of, on average, 8% of the people from their families like that are going to graduate from 4-year colleges, their social networks are very strong, but they're not strong in information about how to succeed in 4-year colleges. And so that makes it even more of an uphill battle. It's not just that they may have grit, they may have determination, but they don't necessarily have sophistication and information about just the general approach, that you can ask for help, and that, in fact, people will be happy to talk to you if you sign up for office hours, and so on. So that, and that, in fact, if something is wrong, don't take it as it's going wrong. Don't take it as your fault. Maybe there's a problem with the system, and someone else can be working to offset that. So I think the big message that, in addition to all the substantive help that all these organizations and Let's Get Ready are giving, I think a big message and an important message that probably comes through every day in the work that folks here do with the students in these programs is, there are people here to help you. The system can work for you, but you have to have the self-efficacy to go and ask people and look for the help when you need it.
Yeah, I would just suggest 3 quick things. One is fill in your list of characteristics that many of us work with young people, especially lower income people, on those characteristics of punctuality, attentiveness, sticking with the subject all the way through, consistency, et cetera, all of that, okay? So you all know that. Second, relative to Chris's comment, I think they need to be in environments where the pedagogy is an engaging pedagogy, preferably smaller classes, preferably regular engagement, whether it's a class that needs 3 hours a week, 3 times for an hour, once for 3 hours. They can't be, I say this for all students, it's a tragedy to be passive in college, but they need to find an institution that engages them, both with the other students in the class and with the faculty member. Third, what do we do about the particular challenges that so many young people from lower income families, working class families bring with them that are unfair? They shouldn't have to be worried about these things that again, speaking in large generalizations, it may be disproportionately represented in this group that they're dealing with significant financial issues, significant family issues that people are relying upon them. Too often that goes silent, and that is being carried by that student, and that's the piece that causes them to leave college. And we think we've done everything possible, but we are still struggling on how to deal with those particular issues. And it's not just a matter of ramping up your counseling center, because they're not going there.
So I'd like to stick with that.